All right, put yourself in 1926. No digital safety nets, no CGI, no modern editing tricks to save a bad take.
Here we go.
And some madman decides he's going to build the absolute blueprint for modern cinema right in the middle of what is supposed to be just a standard disposable slapstick comedy. It shouldn't work.
It didn't work.
He shouldn't have been able to pull it off, yet here we are looking at a piece of celluloid that is, without a doubt, properly genius.
You can't be serious. You're actually calling it genius.
I am.
It's absolutely mental that you're defending this as some sort of masterclass. We are talking about 2,126 meters of contested celluloid that, frankly, is a complete shambles for a good half of its runtime.
Hear me out. If you are listening to this right now expecting a polite, dusty retrospective on black and white slapstick, you are entirely in the wrong place. Turn it off now.
Yeah, we're not doing a polite summary today.
Exactly. Because we are going to forensically tear apart Buster Keaton's 1926 film, Battling Butler.
Cinema, the magic vehicle, a comprehensive guide. Journey 1, 1913 to 1950.
Too bold, I reckon.
Well, I am telling you, and anyone listening who thinks they know cinematic history, that everything you think you know about the genius of Orson Welles might be completely wrong.
Oh, con.
We are going to war over this film today. The stakes here aren't just about a 1920s comedy, it's about who actually invented the visual language we take for granted today.
Hold on a second. Wait. Let me stop you right there before you build this massive unearned pedestal.
It's completely earned.
I won't let you get away with this revisionist history. The film is widely considered sluggish in the middle. Widely. Everyone agrees on this.
I don't agree.
And the biggest red flag. It was made without Keaton's usual team of gagmen. He literally walked onto set without the people who actually made his earlier, vastly superior films work.
That's entirely the point of why it's brilliant.
No, it's not. You strip away the visual architects of his comedy, and you don't get a masterclass, mate. You get an ego trip.
Rubbish. The absence of his usual team is exactly why it works. It forced him out of his comfort zone. It allowed him to do something completely different.
Different doesn't mean good.
Look at the writer's room for this picture. It wasn't just a couple of blokes in a room throwing pies at each other to see what stuck. It was based on an established theatrical play by Stanley Brightman and Austin Melford.
Right, theater guys, not film guys.
Just wait. Then you've got the adaptation by Ballard MacDonald, and the script itself, credited to Paul Gerard Smith.
It's too many people.
Let me finish. Al Boasberg, Charles Henry Smith, and Lex Neal.
Yeah.
That is a proper ensemble.
It's a crowd.
And they created a character study that is absolutely spot on and highly convincing.
Convincing? Are you joking? Listen to what you just said. Having that many cooks in the kitchen is exactly why it turned into an uninventive shambles.
It wasn't a shambles. It was complex.
You just listed 7 different writers. 7. For a silent comedy, trying to write physical visual comedy with 7 different theatrical writers is like trying to choreograph a ballet by committee via telegram.
That's a ridiculous exaggeration.
It's not. It's no wonder the book specifically points out that Keaton is noticeably less generous with his gags here than in his former films.
Because he didn't need them. He was doing something deeper.
He absolutely needed them. When you have 7 writers arguing over a script, you don't get a cohesive character study. You get a bloated mess where nobody knows what the actual joke is.
The joke is the character himself.
Let's break down what a gag man actually did in the 1920s, because I think you're willfully ignoring the mechanics of silent cinema just to suit your argument.
Go on, then.
A gag man wasn't a playwright. They were engineers of laughter. They looked at a set like a staircase, a moving train, a collapsing wall, and calculated the exact physics of a joke.
Which is brilliant, yes, but...
They didn't care about dialogue cards. They cared about kinetic energy. When Keaton ditched them for playwrights, he traded visual kinetic energy for stage dialogue that just doesn't translate to a silent film.
I see your point about the mechanics of a traditional gag. But you're fundamentally ignoring what he was trying to achieve here. They weren't going for standard mathematical gags.
Then what were they going for?
That's what you're entirely missing. Cinema, the magic vehicle, explicitly states that the description of the characters and their motivation is very convincing here. They traded the superficial pratfalls for genuine human psychology.
Human psychology?
Yeah.
In a 1926 slapstick?
Yes. Alfred Butler isn't just a caricature constructed to fall down a flight of stairs in a funny way. He's a fully realized, pathetic, yet deeply earnest human being.
Oh, come off it. Because the film completely lacks Keaton's usual visual punch, it has to rely entirely on a flimsy sitcom-level plot.
It is not a sitcom plot.
And let's actually talk about that plot, because the premise itself is utterly ridiculous. You've got Alfred Butler, played by Keaton, who is this wealthy, entirely incapable ninny.
A brilliant comedic archetype.
And what's the inciting incident? His father's worried about his son's inability to cope with life, so he sends him camping in the mountains to, quote, make a man of him.
Exactly. It's a classic fish-out-of-water setup, but it's elevated.
Elevated? How on earth is it elevated? He goes camping, but he brings his valet, played by Snitz Edwards.
Who is fantastic, by the way.
Sure, but he brings his valet and a massive haul of the absolute latest luxury equipment. It's a sitcom trope. The rich boy goes to the woods but brings his silk pajamas and a gramophone. You could see that plot on television on a Tuesday afternoon 50 years later.
But in 1926, it's a brilliant, razor-sharp satire of upper-class masculinity. You have to put it in context.
Context doesn't make a stale joke funny.
The 1920s were obsessed with this rugged, Theodore Roosevelt-esque ideal of the outdoorsman. The idea that civilization was making men soft, and the only cure was to go out and conquer nature.
Right, so he brings a folding bed. Hilarious.
Keaton is weaponizing that cultural anxiety. Alfred is trying to fulfill this societal mandate, but he fundamentally doesn't understand what it means. He thinks conquering nature means buying the most expensive tent at the sporting goods store.
It's a superficial gag, mate.
It's not just a joke about a rich guy in the woods. It's a commentary on the era's hollow, performative masculinity.
All right. Look, I will give you exactly 1 point. Just one.
I'll take it.
I'll begrudgingly agree with the book's praise for the beginning. The book calls it the delightful quadrille of the duck hunt. And yes, the choreography there is quite good.
Right. The duck hunt is visually magnificent. It's this incredibly precise, rhythmic movement, the way the characters move in sync, the geometry of it.
It's fine.
It's why the authors use the word quadrille, comparing it to a formal structured dance. It proves Keaton still had that visual genius, even without his traditional gagman.
Wait, hold on a second. One good duck hunt doesn't excuse the rest of the bloody film.
It sets the tone.
It's a few minutes of clever timing in an ocean of sluggish narrative. You can't hang a masterpiece label on a film because 3 minutes of it felt like a dance.
You're completely dismissing the emotional core of the first act just to focus on pacing complaints. Alfred falls in love with this beautiful mountain girl, played by Sally O'Neill.
Out of nowhere, basically.
And what's fascinating here is the depth of Alfred's characterization. His feelings are reciprocated, but his sporting activities are so utterly hopeless that he's treated with absolute derision by her father, played by Walter James, and her brother, Bud Fine.
Derision is the correct response. The man is completely useless.
He's trying his best.
If you live in the rugged mountains and some bloke in a tailored hunting jacket shows up and can't even hold a rifle, you're gonna mock him. Any sane person would.
But his earnestness, despite his physical uselessness, is what makes him compelling. He doesn't give up.
He should have given up.
He stands there in his absurd luxury camping gear,
Yeah.
facing down these massive, rugged mountain men, completely out of his depth, but he stays because of love. It's incredibly endearing.
Endearing.
He knows he's a joke to them, but he subjects himself to the humiliation anyway. That is character motivation, not just physical comedy.
It's pathetic, is what it is, and it leads to the single most dodgy, contrived plot point in the entire film.
Here we go.
To save face with these mountain men, the valet, Snitz Edwards, comes up with a massive lie. He persuades Alfred to impersonate a famous lightweight boxer who happens to share his exact name, Battling Butler.
It's a brilliant farce mechanic.
No, it's a lazy writer's crutch. It's the only way those 7 writers could figure out how to get him out of the woods, and the lie spins out of control in the most predictable way possible.
Yeah, it escalates perfectly.
The real Battling Butler, played by Francis McDonald, unexpectedly wins a major fight against a fearsome opponent known as the Alabama Murderer.
Which is a genuinely brilliant name, by the way. It perfectly captures the pulp, sensationalist nature of 1920s boxing promotions.
It's pulp nonsense, yes. But because the real boxer wins, the mountain girl's family suddenly does a complete 180 and immediately marries her off to Alfred, thinking he's the champion.
They respect strength.
Yesterday they hated him. Today he's a fake boxer, so they throw a wedding. It's absurd.
But that is exactly the point. This is an unstoppable train of events, an absolutely brilliant escalation that highlights the 1920s obsession with masculine sporting prowess.
Oh, please.
The family doesn't actually care about Alfred the man. They care about Alfred the champion. The moment they believe he is capable of physical violence and domination in a ring, all his perceived flaws vanish.
You're giving it too much credit.
It's a sharp, cynical critique of how society values men based purely on their physical utility and status.
That's rubbish, mate. Complete rubbish. You're reading deep societal critique into what is fundamentally a dodgy, predictable trope designed simply to force the characters into a marriage so the plot can keep limping along.
Yeah, it's not limping, it's pivoting.
They needed a reason to get Alfred and the girl back to the city. And a forced marriage to a fake celebrity was the easiest, laziest route the 7 writers could think of. It's purely mechanical.
Lazy. It literally shifts the entire genre of the film. The marriage forces Alfred into a terrifying corner, moving the film completely out of a breezy mountain comedy and into a psychological thriller set in a boxing gym.
A psychological thriller? Are you mad?
The stakes go from, will she like me, to will I survive? It's a massive tonal pivot that most directors wouldn't dare attempt halfway through a comedy.
Oh, here we go. A psychological thriller. You're using some very big words for a film that basically turns into a punishing slog. Let's look at this agonizing middle act you love so much.
My favorite part.
I'm sure it is. Alfred is forced to pretend to train at the exact same gym where the real champion is training for a rematch.
It's a brilliant setup.
Both of their spouses are present, including the real boxer's wife, played by Mary O'Brien, and Alfred's manager, Eddie Borden.
The tension is incredible. You have the real battling Butler suspecting that Alfred has designs on his own wife because of a misunderstanding. It's a powder keg.
And when the real champion discovers the truth about the deception, what does he do? Does he expose him to the press?
No.
Does he punch him right then and there? No. He decides to subject the ninny to a brutal, agonizing 3-week training schedule.
Yes, because he is a sadist.
And it is so mind-numbingly boring. I am going to quote the source text directly to you right now.
I know the text.
Cinema, the magic vehicle, explicitly states, in the middle of the film, the already rather slow narrative becomes sluggish and the gags are not very inventive. Sluggish. The book you are defending calls it sluggish.
They just didn't appreciate the tone shift.
A 3-week training montage of a guy getting beaten up is dull, it's bloated, and it completely ruins the pacing.
Are you joking? It is psychological torture. The real battling Butler isn't just hitting him, he's dismantling him mentally.
Padding the runtime.
The historian in me looks at this and sees a masterclass in slow burn tension. Keaton is deliberately letting the dread build. Every time Alfred steps into that ring, you know he's going to suffer.
I suffered watching it.
And he knows he's going to suffer, but he has to do it to maintain the lie for his wife. He is trapped by his own deception.
It doesn't read as tension, mate. It reads as padding. You can talk about dread all you want, but the reality of watching it is watching a joke stretched far beyond its breaking point.
It's not a joke. It's a dramatic scenario.
The filmmakers realized they didn't have enough actual gags from their 7 playwrights, so they just filmed Keaton getting slapped around a gym for 20 minutes. It's not a masterclass in slow burn tension. It's a stalling tactic to get to the required length.
You are completely ignoring the technical side of what Keaton was achieving during this period, which is exactly how he sustains that tension.
Here it is.
You want to talk about masterclasses? Let's talk about the cinematography by J. Devereaux Jennings and Burt Haynes. Let's talk about the massive historical claim made right here in cinema, the magic vehicle.
I knew we'd get to this. The Citizen Kane bombshell.
It is a bombshell. Look, the research in cinema, the magic vehicle, is spot on here. The authors argue that Keaton was trying to build a completely new visual language. They call it a monumental achievement for a reason.
I think they were reaching.
He was fusing spatial awareness and depth because he had the stones to try something nobody else dared. In the prologue, where the parents are discussing Alfred's future, Keaton uses a depth staging technique that is strikingly similar to the celebrated episode in Orson Welles' Citizen Kane.
You can't be serious. You're comparing a sluggish boxing comedy to Citizen Kane.
I'm entirely serious. Let me explain exactly what this means for anyone listening, because this is the crux of why Keaton is a genius.
Please enlighten us.
In early silent films, the camera was mostly treated like a static audience member watching a stage play. Everything happened in a flat, horizontal plane. If 2 people talked, they stood next to each other.
We know how silent films worked.
What Keaton and his cinematographers did here was called depth staging. Imagine the camera capturing an actor in the extreme foreground, perfectly in focus, while simultaneously, way back in the deep background, other characters are also perfectly crisp and interacting with the scene.
Yes, deep focus.
He is using the z-axis, the depth of the room, to tell the story. Wells and Greg Toland got all the credit for doing this in 1941 with Kane, but Keaton was doing it in 1926.
I reckon the book is being way too kind to him, to be honest. You call it ambition, I call it a massive ego trip.
An ego trip to innovate camera lenses.
Yes, just because a director spends a fortune, bosses around Jennings and Haynes, and uses one clever camera trick to stage a conversation doesn't make him Orson Welles.
It literally proves he was 20 years ahead of his time.
He was a proper narcissist with a camera, and I think the book lets him off the hook for a fundamentally flawed film because it wants to worship at the altar of an old classic.
Rubbish. It's not an ego trip, it's an evolution. The book gives you the actual credits and the technical breakthroughs that changed how every film is made today.
But did it make a good film?
This wasn't a happy accident. Keaton was systematically experimenting with how the camera perceives space. If you find the scale of it, or the 2,126 meters of runtime bit of a slog, that's on you, not the history. The history proves he was a pioneer.
I'm just saying, I'm looking at it with a modern eye, and it's half brilliant and half nonsense. The book defends him through his historical lens, but I'm sitting here thinking, mate, cut 30 minutes out of that scene and we'd actually have a story.
You butcher a masterpiece for pacing.
It's bloated. You can have all the depth staging and fancy spatial awareness in the world, but if the audience is checking their watches while a thick boxer does sit-ups, your visual language doesn't matter. It's a failure of pacing disguised as technical innovation.
The pacing is deliberate because it is building painfully and methodically to the climax. And what a climax it is. Let's break down the finale.
Oh, let's.
The real battling Butler beats the Alabama murderer again. And then he decides he's had enough of the game. He decides to finish Alfred off with a proper beating in the changing room.
Right, behind closed doors, no referee, no crowd, just a massacre.
Exactly. It's intensely claustrophobic. And because the mountain girl's watching through a window, Alfred musters his last ounce of desperate strength.
Such a cliche.
The book says it beautifully. Love steals him. He takes an absolute avalanche of blows, but he fights back, knocks out the actual champion, confesses the lie, and is forgiven. It is a brilliant, earned David and Goliath culminating fight.
It's a standard dodgy romance ending, and I'll hit you back with the book's final devastating critique. The film completely lacks the characteristic contrast of Keaton's former films.
Oh, here we go. The inanimate objects argument.
It's true. The book says it. It is missing the struggle of the scrupulous paragon of patience and perverse inanimate objects.
It doesn't need them.
Let's look at what actually made Keaton a legend. In his masterpieces, Keaton fights a literal train in The General. He fights a collapsing house and a cyclone in Steamboat Bill Jr. He fights the physical world.
Yes, and that was his past work.
He fights engineering, weather, and architecture. Here, he just fights a bloke in a locker room. Without Keaton fighting against inanimate objects, it entirely loses the surreal magic. It just becomes a sweaty, conventional boxing melodrama.
Swapping inanimate objects for an unstoppable human boxer was a stroke of genius. You say it loses the magic. I say it gains humanity.
It gains a black eye. That's what it gains.
Instead of fighting a train, which is just engineering and mathematics, he's fighting the embodiment of toxic, aggressive masculinity to protect the woman he loves. It's grounded. It's real. It proves he didn't need a collapsing house to create a compelling climax. He proved he could generate the exact same level of monumental struggle using only human flesh and bone.
It proves he ran out of ideas for massive set pieces and just had two actors punch each other in a small room. It's a massive step backward for him as a physical comedian. He traded the surreal, cosmic struggle of man versus machine for a pub brawl.
It's a massive step forward for him as an actor and a director. He showed he could handle raw emotion, brutal physical stakes, and pioneering cinematography all in one picture.
A picture that drags for half its runtime and abandons everything that made him unique in the first place.
Well, before we go, chew on this. If Keaton hadn't been forced into this boxed-in, gagless melodrama without his usual team, would he have ever been forced to invent the camera tricks that defined modern cinema? Maybe the worst thing to happen to a genius is giving them exactly what they want, and the best thing is taking their toys away.
Or maybe a sluggish film is just a sluggish film, mate.
We've done 40 of these, so you know we're never going to agree. If you want to see if my esteemed colleague here is just being a cynical git or if the book actually has it right, buy the thing. The link is in the description. Do you actually have the spine to read the real history? Or are you staying lazy? Your call.